Now, the mother of a 16-year-old boy who fell to his death while on a scout trip has teamed up with other grieving families to demand action to prevent similar tragedies.
Jackie Leonard and the families of 3 other boys who have died on scout trips are calling for a public inquiry into the organisation and for an external regulator to be established. Well, we're going to be speaking to Jackie Leonard in just a moment. But first, let's talk to Max Raffe, who has been a scout leader for 15 years. Max, it's a great thing to do, to be a scout leader. I was a cub, I wasn't a scout. But just in terms of the training, what sort of training do you get to become a scout leader?
Good morning. Yes, so we do a fair bit of training. When I started my scouting, a lot of it was hands-on courses with other people, and it's moved more online nowadays. We undertake mandatory training every 3 years. It has to be renewed. So there's safety, safeguarding, that sort of thing. And you also learn by peer interaction when you attend events and things like that. So that's where we go. The basic scouting, I have to say, it says scout leader for 15 years. I've been a lot longer than that, as you can probably tell by the colour of my hair. So I started my training over 40 years ago, and
Wow.
You've just got to try and keep on top of it the whole time. And as it changes, adapt with it.
And what kind of regulations are in place to make sure that, you know, the latest advice on child safeguarding, etc., is adhered to?
Well, with regard to safeguarding, we are, the Scout Association work in conjunction with the NSPCC to produce up-to-date safeguarding. And this winter, we actually had an update to our safeguarding policy and how we interact with that and report any incidents or what I would call near misses. They go straight to headquarters. There is no local involvement anymore.
And that has that has changed, hasn't it? Because there used to be you used to sort of pass it up the chain, and now it goes straight to national HQ.
Straight to headquarters, yes.
And is that
which is probably good? It's probably a good idea. Yeah, because if you've got something that's going wrong and you've not got the right expertise in place locally, then why not use headquarters? They are the people who've got the expertise.
And what kind of accreditation is needed in order to become a scout leader? I understand a lot of the time you recruit from within the Scouts and the Cubs themselves.
Yes, we're all volunteers. There are very few paid scouters. There are a few across the UK, but we're all volunteers otherwise at local level. And everybody has to have a DBS. Anybody who's child facing has to have a DBS check for a start, and provide references as part of that process. And that works very well. We tend to train people. A lot of people were scouts themselves. They enjoyed the adventure of scouting years ago, and they feel that they would like to put something back into scouting. So yeah, that's where that goes. And
I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because there will always be a certain amount of risk. You're trying to expose young people to life experiences, and clearly you try and do your due diligence. And as you rightly say, you're all volunteers. So you're doing your best. Just in terms of that, though, do you think there should be some sort of third-party external organisation that actually then, a bit like Ofsted for education, do you think you should be accredited by some separate organisation that ensures you meet certain standards to continue to operate?
I don't necessarily say that regulation in the form of an Ofsted type regulator would work. We are volunteers, and a lot of people will just the bureaucracy of it could be a bit of a problem. So I don't think necessarily regulation would work. We do work to certain national governing bodies anyway, so if we're taking youngsters afloat, we use the processes and procedures of the Royal Yachting Association, or if we're going canoeing or paddleboarding, Canoe England. If it's rifle shooting, it's the National Small Bore Association. So, Small Bore Rifle Association. So, those sorts of things.
I understand. Max, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are actually now joined by Jackie Leonard on the phone from Stockport. Good morning, Jackie. Can you tell us why you're calling for the Scouts organisation to be made safer?
My son died in 2018, August 2018, when he fell from the Great Orme. He was 16. He wasn't supervised. The leaders weren't with him. They didn't know where he was. And they've just concluded in his inquest that he was unlawfully killed by the leaders due to neglect by the Scout Association, as they weren't properly trained. So that's,
And we are desperately sorry for your loss. You are trying to turn this into a positive. So just tell us about the campaign that you are spearheading.
Well, it's myself and 3 other mothers who lost sons in the 1990s in very similar circumstances. And what we're asking is, what we want is that the Scout Association is regulated by an outside body, like schools have Ofsted, like other outdoor activity centres are regulated. They're taking children on adventurous holidays and doing things with leaders. Some of the leaders aren't properly trained.
Sorry, just in terms of that, how are you doing in terms of the campaign?
We've got up to a few thousand, or over 2,000 signatures. We're meeting with our MPs and things like that. So we're just doing as much as we can, really, to raise awareness. We don't want to see Scouts abolished or anything like that. What we want is it made safe, because if it isn't, and if there isn't change as to the way it's run at the moment, another child will die.
And where can we go? Where can our viewers go to support your campaign and sign your petition?
It's on change.org. So if you go on there and put Scouts regulation, then that should come up.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning.